Alright, so Ezreal Swain. One thing I would like to start by talking about with this deck is I really love the Ezreal change overall. The fact that they gave him this flexibility to level up earlier while having a slightly weaker leveled up mode feels very, very good. This change in general, I feel like, is what has enabled this style of deck to really exist in the format. Like, I don't think this deck would be a deck if Ezreal was still 8 or 10 like he had previously been. So, Ezreal is a card that, whenever he Nexus strikes, he gives you that fleeting Mystic shot, which helps him level up. So Ezreal, as designed now, is a really great mid-range / control card because he gets to sneak in with his elusive, generates you these Mystic shots, lets you interact with the opponent's board. And then Ezreal's leveled mode, once he levels up, helps you close games out very quickly by killing your opponent while you continue to interact with their board in general. Swain is our second champion that has reasonable synergy with Ezreal as well, so levels when you've dealt 12 non-combat damage, so all those Mystic shots and a lot of other damage-based cards you're playing to level Ezreal also level up Swain. He's fearsome, which is a form of evasion as well, and then his leveled mode is very powerful also. So whenever you deal non-combat damage to the enemy Nexus, stun the strongest back row enemy, and then on Nexus Strike, he deals 3 damage to the enemy, all enemies, and their Nexus as well. This deck has a lot of beef at the top end. In addition to 3 Leviathan to draw and enable Swain, we've also got a Captain Pharaon and a couple copies of Progress Day. So as this deck makes it into the mid to late game, we've got a lot of really powerful bombs that we want to be drawing to. And then as far as the early game goes, we've got things like Thermo Beam, House Spider, Mystic Shot, Culling Strike, Death Sand, lots of cards that play to the board and one for our opponents so we can try and survive to make it to our top end beefcakes here. Let's go ahead and dive on into some games with this and see how it feels. I remembered to change my scene that time, chat. We're making progress. Baby steps. Freljord, Shadow Isles, and Nibia. This is definitely a matchup where we need to be the beatdown if possible, so let's mulligan looking for some proactive cards here. House Spider's a good one to start. Beams and Ravenous blocks, not so good. It's a decent pickup too.
These old eyes still see far and clear.
It's very good, Kanye Best. Easily one of the best pieces of mid-range top end of the game.
Time for a true display of skill.
Yeah, the way you think about curves in a game like Runeterra versus Magic is drastically different, knowing that you're going to hit your resources. And then Runeterra goes even one step further than that, even, where, like, you have the spell mana system, so, like, Progress Day it has an 8 in the corner, but it's a card you play before turn 8 with some frequency.
Vision to see what others cannot.
Vengeance me, daddy. Vengeance me. You know just what I like.
My legacy.
My legacy.
A storm approaches. Time to reflect.
And then I don't have to be in a rush to kill this, so we'll bank mana here. And then this turn we can progress day plus thermo beam this most likely. That means an avalanche is coming. Most likely. So, hoping to draw more of our 8 mana plays at this point in the game.
Each died, then found home.
We've not played those pictures. Can we just Death Sand here? So I can tell this to get flocked and then static shock the egg and then play this turn.
I will be reborn.
No place for the kind.
Born a patrician, I became a soldier.
I bring the storm.
You dare oppose doctrine?
A world in perfect stillness.
Having some big time wrong half problem here this game.
Rest in ice.
Leave your
Having to just spend so many cards to kill these Anivias. And like, these Anivias came with Chroniclers and Rekindlers. Our opponent is ahead on board and cards in hand right now.
Leave them nothing.
Yeah, we're very good.
A minor setback.
I mean, to be fair, their deck was gonna kill us in, like, the next turn and a half, so I don't really know that I'd classify it as having a much garbage time. Get how angry our little dragon is. It's got fire, chat! You burn their board down, little dragon. I believe in you. The Bilgewater board has S tier music. For people that aren't familiar, the game board that you play on dictates the music that you hear.
There's always fighting 8-punch Pablo.
Probably just banking mana this turn.
Here to help.
Am I? We're culling striking this, right? There isn't a way to preview the music in client, which is definitely a miss on their part. They should definitely do that. If you do a YouTube search, there's a YouTube video that previews all the board music. But yeah, I do wish that you could just do it directly in client. That would be ideal.
Table for one, if you oblige.
If you
Dinner
oblige.
on you then. Nailed it. Charge!
I'm sure there's something for my tastes. Care to accompany me, Star Child?
I will gladly guide all who seek my aid.
Alright, don't guide and touch me. Hashtag sometimes lucky. We do unfortunately still lose Ezreal to the challenger here, but I think that exchange is a net positive for us overall.
No way.
Fear the power you do not
I
see.
mean, like 8 culling strikes in this matchup. Yeah. I think there's a chance that not playing 3 culling strikes is wrong. I'm gonna burn their mana.
I.e. my own.
It's a progress day turn. I think this is a progress day turn.
Should have stayed home, pal.
Take heart.
Alright, now we do this.
Live with purpose.
I am not convinced that this deck that we're playing is actually very good. I think this deck that we're currently playing is one of those decks that I would probably gets classified as being a little bit polarizing.
The world's a big place.
The data on Mobalytics agrees with my opinion that this deck isn't very good. I believe when we looked last night, this archetype had a 43% match win rate on Mobalytics, which is not particularly impressive.
I don't miss.
This deck's just hard to play. Yeah, exactly. Hush, little Ezreal, don't say a word. Daddy's gonna buy you a mockingbird. Do. And like this boat's not even good here because like our Swain's not leveled up yet.
Order, sir. Bring forth our army.
The best version of this deck is 55% plus. Alright, you must be new here. You've been following since September. If you want to tell me my data is wrong,
Fill you with their light.
provide a source.
Won't I miss
If you can DM me or a mod your 55% claim with a statistically significant sample size from somewhere, we'll untime you out early. Let me get the link. Let me get my link just for reference. Do I have it? Nah, I'm not scrolling that far back. I'll dig up my link if you give me yours.
Artillery barrage!
Probably some version with 10 matches played. Yeah, I'll bet whatever version they're referencing does not have a statistically significant sample size. That's usually how these things go in my experience.
live with purpose?
I'm gonna die to Star Spring here, most likely.
Prepare the cargo!
I'm 3 games in on my easy sway deck with 100% win rate. Your statistics mean nothing to me. God bless. God bless us, everyone.
We're all family.
When you talk about 45 to 55%, I mean, what do you want me to say? I'm confused as to what you want me to say other than 45% is much smaller than 55%.
Fire! Darken the sky!
Alright, so we have to progress day into landmark destruction or we lose. We have one piece of landmark destruction. I'm going to answer your question with a question. I just tuned in. Is a list you put together or one you pulled from online? Why does that matter? That is actually irrelevant. Grabner, thank you for the 41 months. I appreciate that. Welcome back. Draven, Ezreal. All right, we're going to mulligan these. We're going to keep these. Looking for some other cheap interaction. Yeah, sounds good. Precipic said last night, according to Mobalytics data dump, Easy Swain has 43.8% win rate. That number could be improved a little by variance, but I highly doubt a 55+% for 6. I agree. And again, we talked about this earlier. That's what I love about Runeterra, is when someone comes in here and is like, no, Jeff, you're wrong. This deck is good. It has this. I could just be like, well, show me your data. Show me, cite your sources. This isn't Magic where data is evil and people can't do that. You can just like call people out on their nonsense claims.
Time for the main event.
Do the percentages include mirror matches? I mean, 1, I don't know, but 2, for a deck that has an under 50% win rate, mirror matches make the matchup rate higher. which means even if they do, mirror matches make a 43.8% higher than it otherwise would be. Sure, but like, even if it's my creation, if you want to be critical of a, even if it's not my creation, Lambton, if you want to be critical of a card I'm playing, you need to tell me why you're being critical. Yeah, which books? Which, you know, the books, the reports. You know, the ones, chat.
Time for a true display of skill.
What I expect from someone that wants to be critical of a card we're playing is the same regardless of if I built the deck or someone else built the deck.
No way.
Can you link that pie chart, Milo? To restate my question, if I have a deck with a 48% run rate, is it not considered good until I get over 50, or is 50 good? I mean, winning more often is good. Yeah, so I'm not quite sure I fully understand your question still. Because yes, winning more often is better. Okay, so like, this makes me wonder what the validity of these charts is, because, or where this is coming from, because this doesn't have a source. That Reddit post doesn't have a source on it. I could make up numbers and staple them to a pie chart too, and call things whatever I want to call them. To the person that I timed out that just linked me a deck list in a DM, you linked me a deck list, not any statistics about a deck list. I can post a deck list on Mobalytics and say there's 10,000 matches with X win rate too. It doesn't make it true.
I have the best job.
How are we killing this? Think it's these two? Yeah, where did that discrepancy come from? Let me grab Precipice link so we can compare now.
Don't blink or you'll miss me. One shot, all skill.
The landmarks go off at end of turn, Streebus. The boats go off at start of turn.
Can't stop me.
Where do you see that information, Wax Paper? So I'm actually not seeing that. I guess here's the other question. So a Precipic, I thought, knew their way around the data on there. Is the Ezreal Swain
Deploying!
You've dealt one to my thing? Yeah, I want to know where the 43 came from.
Empire above all.
Deal 7. That's rude. Rude.
Time for the main event.
Your mods are so fast, you should make a CSGO team.
Glory, courage, excuses the wall. I must get out of here.
We're gonna do this, take a hit for 7. We'll beam this down post-combat. Thanks for citing a source, Blanky Man. I appreciate you. I'm trying to find out now where Precipic got their data from. I'm gonna have to use caution on the stuff they give me from now on. They work with Mobalytics, so I thought they knew their way around, but that's a pretty big miss from them. They had a tri-beam. They got a tri-beam to 7.
Check me out! The world's a big place. Let's see all of it.
Could easily die next turn.
Pledge or perish.
And like, even if these work, we're still super far behind, right? Because like, I have literal nothing left and they have 4 cards in hand.
Don't blink or you'll miss me.
Captain Farron beats most things. Well, the thing that was weird to me, and like, I don't know, maybe it sounds like Mobalytics needs to reevaluate what's going on their tier page, because like, if they really have a deck with 10,000 games played that has a 55% win rate and it's not on their meta list, that seems like a huge miss. I'm actually gonna keep the gotcha here because it kills Elysian Karma.
There's nothing to fear.
It's supposed to be a mix of both, Violent Journey. And in the past it's been good. But this season it's definitely like Spooky Karma, for example, should not be on the tier list, and it is. Skitterer's interesting in a Karma deck. Are they more aggressive? Yeah, the people talking about a differentiation, the actual answer is that the smaller sample size with the 40-something% win rate should be grouped in with the larger data set. They're not enough cards different to be distinct.
The feud for the many.
It's an all-minion deck running Go Hard and Deep Meditation. Ha! That's kind of cute. That's actually really cute.
Praise the Noctora. Remember this day.
Braum Soraka. Huh? Feel like I want a mulligan for culling strikes here? okay so far, Claire. This archetype really struggles against the Shadow Isle control decks, it feels like.
I am here to help.
Just get our Culling Strike in now while they don't have Bastion up. This also kills her through a Pale Cascade, which is good. To be fair, we spent 20 minutes talking about what data looks like around it. Which is an important distinction.
The world's a big place. Let's see all of it.
Well, it's the second most played archetype on Mobalytics and has a 55% win rate there.
Stop staring.
I don't miss.
We played TF Go Hard. We have not. Yeah, one thing that's important to know is that Mobalytics data doesn't separate out different tiers. So Mobalytics is explicitly everything. It doesn't include just like Platinum Plus. I believe, right? Is that accurate? Or does it doesn't include some data separation that way? Yeah, what are the sample sizes in Just Masters though?
Is it the boosters? Who knows?
Who knows? Alright, I think we tell this to get flocked here, and then they hook something, and then we Scorched Earth this.
Stay safe, my friend.
I no longer trust people when they tell me anything. You and me both, Precipic. You and me both.
Easy. Like my name.
It's like, it's literally, and I mean like, it's on both of us too, right? Like if you click on decks and then metastats, it's literally the second most played deck. That's probably true, Wax Papers. I don't know, some of these Masters rates are small, like ones under triple digits are probably too small. Miss Fortune Lucian, easily mulliganing that. I think I'm keeping the rest of these. It's a little awkward in the opener, but dealing 3 to something is good. Killing Miss Fortune for 4 mana is fine.
Nothing like the stink of blood and sweat.
No, I can admit when I was just lazy, Engineer. It sounds like Precipic and I did the same thing. We took someone else at their word and just didn't look it up for ourselves. And like when you look it up for yourselves, it's very clearly there. But yeah, the fact that like it's at the second most played deck at a 55% win rate and not on their tier list there seems like a huge miss. Like to the point of like me going, what's the point of their tier list if like the second most played deck with a decent win rate isn't listed on it. Play a Misfortune for me and don't have a Ranger's Guile.
Every wave is a path.
Yeah, I want to start this, I think. Spooky Karma is best deck. It's something.
Keep us moving.
So the tier list is supposed to be a mix of data and opinions, which is ideal. Like, the tier list shouldn't be just raw data. There should be nuance included with it. But, like, the data should also have a strong consideration, right?
Nightmares fear.
Uh-oh, hold on. Oh, we get it back. No, I grabbed the bottom of the window like I do sometimes and resized it. And then, it disappeared on Mobalytics for some reason. Hey, John, thank you for the 21 months of Prime support. I really appreciate that. Welcome back. Thanks for keeping me around. 8 mana total. Guess I can do 2 of these. God, Swain just isn't leveled at all. I'm gonna pass. They're gonna attack and we'll see what they do.
These woods belong to us. This is our way.
It literally is an SG gamer. That's Draven Ezreal. So the thing you just linked has Draven Ezreal there.
Missed your chance to run.
How tedious.
Yeah, I don't think I can play her on Sharp Sight.
In a world full of monsters, I'm glad I have you.
That'll never change. You're late.
You're early.
Is this considered polyamorous? I need a flavor judge ruling.
Fortune favors the bold.
Now it is. That's considered cloning your wife. All right, fair. Alright, so... how do we feel about Captain Theron hope to kill them next turn? I think that's the plan. The easy target deck was really bad. They were playing Salvage in their aggro deck. It's an interesting choice.
I'm actually here.
Double 1-drop is
Do my best.
rough. So we do this, go to 9. Yeah, Baron only does 5 here, unfortunately.
Don't blink or you'll miss me.
I think... wait, what? Yes! Yes, you have died! I have definitely won that game. Alright, you know what? We take those. We take those here. Got it. Ezreal clearly busted. See 55% win rate. I actually really like the Ezreal change. I mentioned that at the start of the set. I think Ezreal, as designed now, is a super healthy, reasonable card. I think he's super interactive. I keep Ezreal mulligan the rest here, I think.
Let's get those shortcuts.
Yeah, I really wish the overlay would provide the opponent's champions too. That would be a really good quality of life upgrade. Easy game. Easy game.
Find the beginning.
Play a Kalista for me.
We shall not resist
Thanks.
until all betrayers.
Peak Twitch chat is someone asking me why don't I play a deck? I give them a link telling them how they can submit a deck to be played on stream, and they just paste a deck code in chat. Come on now. Now, I think having tools to fight against Soraka Kench is really important, Big V. I think the flexibility of being able to kill landmarks is important.
Onward forever.
So, the title of that blog post, Cody, is changed, but the URL, I would have to manually go and forward the old URL to whatever the new URL is. So, rather than trying to figure out forwards on, what's it called, on WordPress, I've left the title the same, or the URL the same.
Play of skill.
We shall pierce their treasonous hearts.
Sounds dangerous. I'm in. Can't stop me. Firing. Check me out.
Will do, Precipic. I just want you to know I do appreciate you. I know you're not the only one making the decisions there. I understand you're working with other people.
Oh, take your time, pal. It's not like I've got better things to do.
I'm really bad at catching follower notifications still. Raxy's Ocean Fire and Empire. MP, if you're all still here, thanks for joining Hoaglandia. Is our other flock a Swain? No, they're both just flocks.
Bleed or nothing.
Man, is having Ezreal and Swain out at the same time good, chat? Did I play one that was a Swain? I should pay more attention.
One shot, all skill.
I really want to attack this into here. Easy burn of their mana here, I think. So, I guess we could Culling Strike this. I need to try and... The way we lose this game is Endure plus an Atrocity. So trying to keep them off of drawing into those.
History will remember us.
I wish he was playable in a more mid-rangey deck. I'm really confused, Sarja. What do you think this deck we're currently playing is, if not mid-range? In fact, I don't think I've ever seen Swain played in a deck that I wouldn't classify as a mid-range deck in Runeterra. Hey, what's going on, Y-Sticks? Thank you for the 22 months. Really appreciate that. Welcome back. Disco Elysium was strange. It's a very, very weird game. It's pretty much control. I think I disagree with that assessment. I think mid-range decks in general tend to have aggressive slants or more controlling slants. And I think mid-range Swain decks definitely fall under the more controlling aspect or area of mid-range decks, but I definitely think this archetype I would classify as mid-range. And I think let me give an example of why this is a mid-range deck. Freljord Shadow Isle control. This deck is the beatdown in that matchup, right? Does anybody think this deck is the control deck, the deck trying to go long against a Nivea or Shadow Isle's Freljord control? Or is this deck the beatdown in that matchup? In my opinion, the way you classify a mid-range deck is mid-range decks assume different roles in different matchups. Against aggro, you're a control deck, and against control, you're the beatdown. And I think this archetype is definitely the beatdown against all of the Shadow Isle's Freljord control decks. Yeah, if they want to Rangers resolve this, that's a fine exchange for us too, right?
Making the dead deader.
Now I'm going to beam her for resource efficiency, and beam plays around resolve, which I think they likely have. So I'm doing this rather than Death Standing for that reason.
Frown too much, and your face will stay like that.
Unlikely with you around.
They have another... Okay. Oh, that's really good. Yikes. This level's Lucian in response means Culling Strike is no longer good. But one of the best and most true quotes is, statistics don't lie, but people lie with statistics all the time. The story you elect to tell with the numbers you present is often very telling of who you are and what your goals are. How do control versus control matchups play out? Usually, who is the beatdown in control versus control is dictated by what your draw looks like. I'm pretty sure we're gonna. No, I'm not even pretty sure. We're gonna start a new game tonight. We're not gonna revisit Disco. Game's just a little too strange.
Merely pawns in a greater game.
What's wrong with Disco? It's just a little bit darker and grungier than I was expecting it to be. I could disable the music to not worry about DMCA. I also don't think Disco makes a very good stream game, if I'm being honest. It's largely an interactive story, which isn't an inherently bad thing, but I think in terms of making content on stream, it's just not great.
Thought you'd never ask.
So their Mystic Shot, okay. So let's start with attacking with this and hope to fade Sharp Sight here. Okay.
I've got your back.
Huh?
Charge!
Break their spirits and their swords.
Really needed a gotcha there, I think. Relatively dead to open attacks here. If they add more stuff to the board, also pretty dead.
Harry, riposte? Hardly fair.
Oh, take your time, pal. It's not like I'm...
Steel is yours.
If they had Ranger's Resolve earlier this game, we're about to be very dead. We thought they might have had it earlier. If they did and they've been sandbagging it this whole time, they're about to kill us with it.
Firing!
Such little life. Victory awaits.
Alright. Did not get Ranger's Resolve. Glass half full.
Check me out!
I don't know that we're in the clear necessarily. We're going down to 4 here against their aggro deck. Ezreal's at least surviving here. Depends on what their leftovers are. I do have a boat and a Farron to play out next turn. I'm gonna get to bank some spell mana to use Ezreal's Mystic Shot as well.
Sentinels of light don't fear the dark.
A symbol worth fighting for.
Yep. Yeah, looks like we're gonna be dead here, huh?
Alright, let's mess some folks up. Don't back down.
I suppose we could draw something next turn to kill them, right?
Charge!
So, Mystic Shot or Ezreal is lethal. Yeah, Static Shock's also lethal. Death Sand's lethal.
No way!
Oh! 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 Ezreal does too. Ezreal was one in my head. I was listing things that were lethal in my head, and that wasn't on the list. I don't know what we're looking for in this matchup. Flock plus Censure actually probably pretty good. They kill Shyvana. Single-player, story-driven games and puzzle games are the two types of games that I enjoy the most outside of card games. Horizon, for examples, Horizon Zero Dawn, and Hellblade: Senua's Sacrifice are some of my favorites that I played in recent memory. I have not played the Prince of Persia series, no. Jay Duckman, thank you for the follow. Welcome to Hoaglandia. And talking about statistically significant sample sizes and other things that are relevant. Games like that last one where I'm a big dumb stupid and miss the fact that we had lethal is why I don't put the current match record with the deck that we're playing on the stream.
Display of skill.
Because the match record doesn't tell the whole story.
Unyielding light.
Watch and learn.
Spider-Man was good. I don't know if it would makes it into my list of best games of all time, for example, but it was reasonable. It was on the shorter side overall. Would probably be my one big critique of it. Only 11 hours of gameplay with taking the time to do some side quests is
Firing.
no, it's considered a full game, dude.
No way.
It was a $50 PlayStation game.
Scorching light. Virtue guides me.
Gosh, TCG players, it's funny how something that's always consistent across games is this weird idea that this perfect data set exists or this perfect play exists under these certain conditions, when that really just couldn't be further from the truth. You hear the same kind of egotistical stuff in the Magic side too, where players who play Magic online or players who are in the highest rank on Arena, their play is suddenly more perfect than other people. I don't know.
Hope burns on.
The easiest way to show very pointedly that even Masters players are likely going to be far from perfect in their play is just think about how you all play Runeterra at home and think of how often playing Runeterra is the only thing you are doing. And the answer to that question is probably not very often. you're watching Twitch streams, or your kids or your friends or significant others are around, you're watching a movie on Netflix, you're idly web browsing, you're chatting with other people on Discord. Even people that are in Masters are playing distracted with some frequency. And like even people streaming, right? Like streaming is a very large distraction. Trying to keep up with the chat and carry on a conversation with often multiple different people, that's not free. It doesn't like come at the cost of no mental energy. Even tournament play isn't exactly perfect either. Maybe in the very early rounds you could make the argument that it is, but in tournament play especially, tournaments are long oftentimes. Like if you've ever played a 10 round tournament, you know your play in round 7, 8, 9, 10 is less crisp and less clean and less good than it was in rounds 1, 2, 3, maybe even 4 of that tournament. The mental fatigue of constantly doing stuff like that it matters, it's relevant. So Swain's leveled. And take a hit for 5 here. And that's also a good suggestion in general that applies to card games and life. Don't arbitrarily assign numbers to things that are based on your feelings. It's okay to just say, I feel this is how this is. So I only have 12 mana here. I think I want to Captain Fair on this turn. And then next turn we can like Swain plus Decimate stun something and get in a decent attack. Sure, like your gut feelings are gonna be more on point than someone's feelings who has less experience than you, but it's still just a feeling, right? So like your experience means we should respect what you feel more than Joe Random that doesn't have experience, but you should still acknowledge that it's not a statistic. It's not something that you're measuring objectively or scientifically. For people that are new to the channel and aren't familiar with my background, in a previous life, I was a system and data analyst for a Fortune 50 company. I have a master's degree in mathematics. I've spent time teaching at the college and university level. And now I stream full-time here on Twitch, playing card games and other fun things. I am currently using a standing desk, yes. Huh. That's not a bad one. Captain Farron was supposed to end this chat. I think he's not going to live up to his tagline this game. The real question is, do they have an Orient Soul here? Not yet, thankfully. With this played, do I progress day here? I think I want a progress day. Yikes. Yeah, Swain Decimate could have also been okay. The problem with this attack is another copy of Sharp Sight. They're 15 cards into their deck. Not how we want it to do awful. It basically just doesn't work with Thermo Beam. If they have a Sharp Sight here, Thermo Beam gets to finish this. Yep.
There are none like me.
Yep. And this has been largely my experience playing against this deck that we're currently playing on the ladder as well. And I think this goes back to some people talking about things being polarizing. I think a lot of the people that are talking about things being polarizing in this format, it largely comes down to the deck choices that you're playing. And I think this Swain Ezreal deck is definitely a deck that has some pretty polarizing matchups. And for people that aren't familiar with what that term means in terms of card games, it means that this deck feels very good against aggressive small unit decks because we have a ton of removal, but it feels very poor against these go bigger controlling decks. So Shadow Isle Freljord control, the various Orient Sol brews that are running around, these all feel like very challenging matchups because our small removal doesn't line up well into what they have going on. And one of the things that's interesting about like the Mobalytics data, so for example, the sample size is smaller, but this archetype goes down. This archetype, if you filter the data on Mobalytics from all ranks to just Masters rank, the win rate on this deck drops 6 percentage points, which is a significant drop. Which probably, based on and this is why you should look at data paired with experience and feelings. You need to understand the data, you need to mix feelings in. My experience with how the matchups lay out in this deck, that would imply to me that aggro's probably less represented in the Masters ladder, which is what this archetype preys on. So I would assume that very large percentage decrease in win rate is likely related to the fact that the local metagame looks different there. Afternoon, Lucos. Yeah, you are catching us at the tail end today. Life is well. It's been a fun stream. A lot of genuinely good discussions here today. Like this deck, I feel like this whole set has been a really good example, I think, of just talking through some of the statistical details that we have in card games and how we evaluate things. It's been really fun content from that perspective, I think. The games have been reasonable too, but I think the discussions have really highlighted in this set more than they usually do. We just lag using global thermonuclear war here? I think so. I don't want them to thresh my Ezreal. Like, not resource efficient or tempo efficient strictly, but I think it's definitely a worthwhile play here. That's really good if they have another Thresh.
Fear the power you do not see.
Vengeance me, daddy. Yeah, I agree with that too, Logan. Sample size is also relevant. Like, when you filter to just Masters, the number of matches drops from 10,000 down to, gosh, what is it, 277, which is like a pretty big differential. We get to hit them with Swain this turn. Boppy! I mean, that's not true. We have Culling Strike that 1-for-1's Thresh. How many matches do you think you really need for an educated opinion on a deck's win rate? Well, so if you have a large enough sample, you're no longer in opinion territory. You can look at data. Statistically significant sample sizes can give you what's actually objective data. It's an important thing to look at and think about. I don't think I want to bump this into here, so I'm just going to pass back. Yeah, we're going to burn our card draw for the turn, is unfortunate. Glad we have a Culling Strike already in hand. Low, and to be more specific about what your question is asking, I think, like, low triple digits is where you start to get into sample sizes being worth looking at, and like low 4 digits are where I look at a number and be confident that, like, yeah, this is relevant and reasonable. Yeah, like that 277, I think I agree with Luco. It's like just about on the cusp. It's more than most people think, I think, is where I would start. What qualifies as statistically significant is more than most people think based on gut reactions.
We'll bring peace to Ionia, whatever the cost.
Okay, pretty sure we're just like messing up their board here. And this is gonna deal 3 to them, and then hopefully they die to these. And basically, one of the best ways to think about, is my data statistically significant, is you want to ask yourself the question, how much does adding 1 more data point move the needle on what this data says? So if adding one data point moves your percentage, you're probably not close to statistically significant yet. I'm gonna try and kill them. Okay, so easy Swain. Obviously, like I said, what makes a deck good, bad, or otherwise, we've discussed throughout this entire set. There's a lot that goes into it, and there's a lot of nuance in that discussion. That being said, if I wanted to work on this deck and I would want to try and address some of the polarization issues with it. And I think the place I would start when it comes to addressing how polarized the matchups feel like they are with this deck, 3 cards that come to my mind when I think about how the matchups with this deck feel are Gotcha, Arachnoid Sentry, and Ravenous Flock. These are cards that feel kind of individually weak and kind of narrow in the matchups that are hard. And I think one of the key differences between things like Flock, Sentry, and Gotcha compared to Mystic Shot, Death's Hand, and Static Shock is that Static Shock, Death's Hand, and Mystic Shot, these are all cards that are interaction against the small creature decks, small unit decks, but they're also reach in the matchups where you're the beatdown. And I would want to look at and think through what these slots are doing and ask myself the question is, can we make these slots be things that are still okay against aggro, but also better in those matchups where we're the ones that need to be applying pressure? And I don't know, maybe those types of cards don't exist. For example, one card I would be potentially interested in trying would be Chempunk Pickpocket. This is a card that plays to the board early and cheaply, so it can trade 1-for-1 meaningfully against aggro decks, but with this Nexus Strike ability, this is also a card that's capable of generating card advantage against control decks. So things like that would be what I would want to think about in terms of how I wanted to build the deck if I wanted to try and make the matchups that feel hard better. Legion Grenadier, I think this card is another card that you could consider just because the stat line on this card is fine against aggro, like Chempunk Pickpocket, and this appropriately applies pressure against control decks. And that is really how you want to build mid-range decks, in my experience, to try and mitigate those potentially polarized matchups. You want more cards like Grenadier and Chempunk that fill multiple roles, even if they're slightly worse than Gotcha and Flock and Sentry against aggro. So, like, these cards are narrow, but they're better at what they do specifically, while things like Chempunk and Legion Grenadier are more general, even if they're marginally worse against your matchups that are good. So, like, what I would be looking to do with this archetype, if I wanted to try and optimize it to have more balanced matchups against the field, is cut cards that are individually weak and specifically only good against aggro for cards that are okay against aggro, but also okay against the control decks where it feels like we really struggle. At any rate, thanks everybody for hanging out here today. I really appreciate it. If you're a new viewer, I'll be back tomorrow morning with some more Runeterra. I also do some variety stuff in the evening, 6 days a week. So we are going to be starting, what's it called? Desu X Human Revolution this evening, which is a single-player story-driven game, I believe, based on the description that I read. So I'll be back in about 6 hours this evening, playing some variety stuff. And I'll be back with a couple more Runeterra constructed decks tomorrow morning. Remember, I also have a YouTube channel where I post a highlight every single day of a sweet Runeterra deck with some games around it, as well as everything that I stream here, so everything gets cut up and archived there in a neat and orderly fashion. And also, most of these decks are viewer submissions, so if you have a sweet deck that you'd like to see played on stream at some point in the future, you can submit that using the form there on my website. Everybody stay safe out there wherever you're at, and I'll catch all y'all around soon again.